Is it done tonight in Dallas? Will championship number 18 be headed back to Boston? The Celtics and the Mavericks in game number 4 of the 2024 NBA Finals. Or might we extend the series at least until the next time we speak, Donnie right side? That would be on Monday night for game number 5 back in Beantown. Here's where it stands entering this 4th game of the NBA championship set. Unlike when we spoke yesterday, with Dallas an ever so slight favorite to finally win a game in the NBA Finals, the line has flipped past 0, now in favor of the C's. It's a very short number in favor of Boston, just 1 point on the spread, minus 112, that live and updated number on the FanDuel Sportsbook. That shows 14 cents of distinction. Now it is only 8 pennies of difference between the Boston Celtics and the Dallas Mavericks. Do you put any stock in the idea, Donnie, that the Celtics were an underdog in Game 3, opened as a dog for Game 4, at least a small idea that Dallas would not be swept, and yet Boston on game day Friday morning for game number 4 is now the favorite?
I'm not surprised at all, because you had to figure, sometimes baking into that line, a lot of public money going to move around on the Dallas Mavericks, figuring that is a must-win game, and it really was. We said it many times here. If you go down 3-0 or 0-3 in the series, can you still come back? Mathematically, yes, you can. Has anybody ever done it in the NBA? No, they haven't. The series is over at that point. And also, we were worried about, first 2 games, a guy that made a direct impact on the court, on his home court, was Kristaps Porzingis. He wouldn't be available for game number 3. How would that reaction happen? And we also knew that you were probably going to get the best out of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving because the season was on the line. Luka gave you an interesting effort, which gave you a lot of scoring, some rebounds and assists, but fouling out early didn't help them. Kyrie Irving was sensational in that basketball game, and they still lost. So if you're the odds maker and or the betting public, you're looking at this going, well, we know Dallas can't win. Is pride on the line? Is that enough to bet at this point? Or the Boston Celtics can just smell that championship and they're not going to let it get away? You took 3 good punches from the Mavericks, and every time you came away with a victory. I don't see how this is going to be any different. And I agree with the FanDuel Sportsbook, Ben, that -1 for the Boston Celtics, that's appropriate.
Yeah. The what-if game you could play all day long. What if Luka Doncic does not foul out due to frustration? What if Luka Doncic is there for the final 4 minutes of regulation? Would the Mavericks' comeback effort, being down by as many as 21 early in the 4th quarter, have been different? It's the what-if game. It did not happen. Boston has a 3-0 lead in the 2024 NBA Finals, and the Celtics still opened up a 21-point lead in the 4th quarter of a must-win, can't-lose game on Dallas's home floor in game number 3. Donnie, I think it's pretty easy to look at the opening 2 games of this set and simply say what the difference had to be for the Mavs returning back home to the Lone Star State. Kyrie Irving and the rest of the supporting staff, but mainly Kyrie, had to be better to help out Luka Doncic to win a game in this series, although we didn't really expect, seeing the first 2 games inside TD Garden, that Dallas could actually contend with Boston at this point to come all the way back and win the NBA title. If you're the Mavericks and you see Game 3 play out the way it did, what is that redeeming quality that you hope to change tonight? Is it just your motivation? Is it just being on the brink of elimination? Is there anything more that we can quantify in terms of actual stats or X's and O's that changes your perception on the Mavericks?
Not really, but also, we had the formula in game number 3. It was laid out beautifully by the Dallas Mavericks. Get Kyrie involved early and get him going. Checkmate. Get an early lead to bring that crowd into the game. Checkmate here. And by the end of the 1st quarter, all of that momentum went away because it was only a 1-point lead for the Dallas Mavericks. And you saw the way they came out in the 3rd quarter. It was clear that the Boston Celtics were ready to sort of wrap this series up early. But if you're looking for this, again, you enter in this game 1st quarter, double-digit lead by the Mavericks. Oh, we saw this play out before. But you still have to do that. It can't be well, they got a 10-point lead in the last game, Ben, early. Maybe they go down 10. They can chase down the Celtics. You know that's not a recipe for success. The better the start, the better the chance of victory. We understand that. But I guess it's just so simple as, Kyrie, I need that same effort from you early and to be attacking at the rim. But also at the same time, Luka, just focus on the game. Let the game come to you. Don't worry about the referees. Don't try to take charges 30 feet from the basket and have a challenge and lose that challenge and end up fouling out. Just give me what you have, because there's a reason why the Boston Celtics, Ben, knowing that they're going to win a championship, aren't 14.5-point favorites tonight, because why should Dallas even play? Nobody comes back from 0-3. We get that here.
Right.
I need that same performance in the first quarter, but I need a 6 or 7 point lead at the end of one. Don't just let it slip away. It's hard to say what you need the Mavericks to do, because quite frankly, they did exactly what they needed to do in the last game, and they still lost.
And I think that's the tough pill to swallow for the Mavericks right now. The formula, the recipe was there. Get off to a great start. Okay, 25-12, midway through the opening quarter. Boston rallies all the way through the final 6 minutes of that first quarter. 1 point difference at the end of that, 1 point difference at the halftime break. And then the Celtics took the third quarter by storm. Okay, we need Kyrie Irving to score at least 20, probably 25. Hey, how about 30? How about the game's leading scorer with 35? And yet they still lose by 7 as a 3-point home favorite. That's the difficult dynamic for Dallas entering game number 4 tonight. And one of the narratives entering this series, Donnie, was the idea that could the Mavericks be the first team to remain fully healthy and truly test the Celtics on this run to the NBA championship and potentially NBA title number 18. And the idea was Dallas would be that team. Maybe it's just been Boston all along. The preseason co-favorites to win an NBA championship. The short solo favorites midway through the NBA regular season. An odds-on favorite to win the NBA championship in round number 1 of this NBA postseason. And now we see the Celtics with a chance not only for the most NBA titles in NBA history tonight if they win number 18, but a historic postseason to boot to get championship number 18. This would be just the 10th sweep in NBA Finals history, the third in this millennium. It would be a 16-2 playoff record overall with a victory in only 8 games. That would be the 5th best all-time playoff performance based on overall win percentage. And tonight is game number 100 this season for the Celtics. They would win 80 of them with a victory over Dallas. Regular season record, playoff record, 11th best in the history of the association based on overall win percentage. It could be a historic cap to a historic NBA championship for Boston.
And sometimes you need some breaks along the way. They didn't even face any adversity here, Ben, in the Eastern Conference playoffs, going through teams that were injured and certainly inferior at the same time. Then you thought, what was that measuring stick we were going to use? Like, yeah, they really dug down deep, the Boston Celtics, to come back from a 2-1 deficit in the Eastern Conference finals. Now they're in the finals. We didn't get that. We were also talking about which team was going to show up for the Celtics, when quite frankly, we were trying to say, who was there in round 1, 2, and 3? Is that the team we're going to see in the finals? And they didn't play anybody, so how's that going to be when they face a real team in the Dallas Mavericks? Now we're finding themselves about to sweep the Dallas Mavericks in the NBA Finals. And also it's like, hey, Dallas got really lucky to get there. No, Dallas was a really, really good basketball team. Second half of the NBA season and in the playoffs here. This is a monumental run for the Celtics. And again, even though I'm not a fan of them, at least we're not going to get that, well, everybody was injured in the Eastern Conference and they got lucky in the finals. Like, no, you can say that about the Eastern Conference playoffs, but you still have to win those games. The fact that they sweep the Dallas Mavericks, and don't give me that, well, Luka's getting injections here. Luka's dropping 30 and 10 every single night, so I'm not worried about that. But that vantage point of what were we going to get in the finals if they sweep that, man, what a great season for the Boston Celtics as they pull that off tonight.
Minus 8,000. Now the updated number for the Celtics to win NBA championship number 18. It is only a matter of time. It might not be a 4-game sweep tonight, but it is only a matter of time. Don't believe me? How about 156 all-time NBA playoff series in a best-of-7 round where a team has held a 3-0 series advantage? All 156. The team that was up 3-0 won the series. This is number 157 between the Celtics and the Mavericks. More for Game 4 next. Game number 4 of the 2024 NBA Finals tonight in Dallas. Is this the last game we will see of the 2023-24 NBA season? The odds makers think so, if even ever so slightly. Boston, a now 1-point favorite for game number 4. Minus 112 on the money line, minus 104 on the other side for the Mavericks. We're talking 8 cents with the updated numbers on the FanDuel Sportsbook. But the Celtics are favored on the road. They were an underdog, winning outright in game number 3 106-99. And what an effort it was out of the Jays in that third game. Jason Tatum, Boston's leading scorer. He had 31. Jaylen Brown, also 30 points. 38 and 8 and a plus minus of plus 13 to pace all of the 5 starters for the Celtics, which has made maybe the only interesting thing left in this NBA championship set, the race for the hardware. Not the Larry O'Brien trophy, but the NBA Finals MVP trophy, minus 340. Jaylen Brown, now the hefty odds-on favorite, when, Donnie, it was Jason Tatum who entered game number 3 at plus 140 as the favorite, 15 cents in front of Brown.
Yeah, by the way, I'm taking Jason Tatum at this point because there is no discrepancy that's so crazy. Like, well, Donnie, I mean, look, Jaylen Brown, 3 straight games in the finals, a triple-double, and Jason Tatum hasn't played all that well. If you want to say they're both playing at the top of their game, maybe you can't make that argument, but where's the argument for being that big of a favorite over Jason Tatum? And we joked about it yesterday. It's just the hate, but no, sports books don't run on hate like, oh, yeah, we're just going to put this guy because we don't like Jason Tatum. That's nonsense at this point. Now, everything that I know about these two is even though they're great players on the same team and the common goal is, yeah, we're friends, we want to win a championship, but these guys are competitive between each other. You saw the Eastern Conference Finals. Jaylen Brown got that MVP. So like, okay, that was an interesting mild upset there. In the finals, it's probably going to be Tatum if it's close. These two guys are very close in their statistics over the first 3 games. It looks like it's a runaway for Brown. So I joke like, Brown's going to go in for an open dunk and Jason Tatum's going to block him at the rim saying, this is going to be my MVP award. But the one thing I do know about Jason Tatum, he's not going to be shy in this game. It's not going to be, and again, reverberation around the locker room. Hey, by the way, check the FanDuel Sportsbook, guys. Looks like a heavy favorite for Brown. Congratulations, you won this. They're competitive here. I expect 25-plus shots taken from Jason Tatum tonight, and I would take the plus money on Tatum because it is going to come down to who's the better player in game number 4 if they close it out. I believe that. I don't think this price should be that high. I really don't.
Listen, this core in Boston is defined by these two guys. Jaylen Brown, first-round pick, number 3 overall in 2016. First-round pick, number 3 overall in 2017 for Jason Tatum. Neither selected by the Celtics, but their rights were traded on draft night to Boston. So both of these guys have only ever played inside TD Garden in Beantown. This is the core that is defined by winning an NBA championship. So when that happens and the Celtics win number 18, who takes home the hardware as the NBA Finals MVP? And this could very likely be the final game of the NBA Finals of this series. So it makes the props a little bit more intriguing in this head-to-head matchup between teammates. 27.5, the points prop for Jason Tatum, the higher of the two numbers. Jaylen Brown now at 24 and a hook. Tatum was terrible in the first 2 games, 6 of 16 from the floor in game 1, 6 of 22 from the field in game number 2. Jaylen Brown was steady, Boston's leading scorer in game 1, finishing with 22. Also had 20 in game 2, but he wasn't lighting the world on fire. And we had said, Donnie, that if you gave out a game 1 MVP, it was probably Kristaps Porzingis. If you came out of game 2 MVP for Boston, it was probably Drew Holiday. So who wins the MVP of the NBA Finals if this is the last game could be decided in the head-to-head matchup between the Jays tonight.
Yes, and it will be. That's what's so intriguing about why it's running away. I still think it should be plus 140, maybe even an even matchup between those two, because what is going to be the deciding force and what are they going to be voting on? Because what happens if Jason Tatum drops 35 points tonight and Jaylen Brown drops 30? And it's like, okay, well, what about the rebounds? Well, Tatum had a little bit more rebounds and they were similar in assists. Why would it be going to Jaylen Brown overwhelmingly? And also when we take a look at, typically it's the best player on the team that wins it. And I know it's only supposed to be the finals, which is what you're judging it on. But I know sometimes that regular season and postseason before the NBA Finals does leak in here. That's why it was surprising that Jaylen Brown got the Eastern Conference Finals MVP, and maybe it would just roll back to Jason Tatum. But it would be interesting if it's Brown and then Brown again, fresh off of the snub from all those NBA teams that he missed out on here over the summer and was angry about doing that. And even more so, like usually it's like, hey, who's going to win the series? I think it's a formality that we understand. The Boston Celtics will do that. The most intriguing market, you're right now, is the MVP of the finals because of those price points and those numbers that are coming back. And also what happens tonight, Ben. What happens if we get 27 points out of Drew Holiday here? It's still up in the air because we're not dealing with 7 games. It's like the cream is going to rise to the top. It's only 4 games here where if you already had a good game in the first 4 and then you cap it off in game number 4, that'll be interesting to see. I can't wait to watch this play out. It's a great market.
There's only 4 guys listed with an NBA Finals MVP price. The 2 Jays, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Luka Doncic, whose number reflects if the Dallas Mavericks can come back from an 0-3 hole and win the NBA championship, and Drew Holiday at 65-1. What if Drew Holiday goes off for 30 tonight? Is Boston's leading scorer in 2 of the 4 games, half of the NBA championship series? Would he be in consideration? I will say, if Drew Holiday is the best Boston player tonight, but Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are both pretty good, probably goes to Jaylen Brown. Jason Tatum has to be better than Jaylen Brown tonight to win that hardware. They combined for 61 points in Game 3. Only Derek White scored in double figures. He was the only other Celtics player to reach double figures. He hit 4 triples. He has been great from 3. His points prop tonight, 15.5. for the Boston Celtics. And again, we have talked about the recipe, the formula for Dallas. It was Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, that dynamic Dallas duo, outscoring Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. They did, and Luka missed the final 4 minutes of regulation. They had 62 combined as we look at the props for the Mavericks tonight.
Yeah, no, it's one to keep an eye on. Also, how about the biggest prop overall? Well, basically, is going to be who's going to win this game and who is actually going to win the MVP. But at the same time, 7 out of 10 tickets here coming in on the Boston Celtics tonight. The public has stated this series is over, Ben. That's what they're saying to us.
Game number 4 of the 2024 NBA Finals tonight in Dallas. Is it over? Will it be a Celtics sweep? Or can the Mavericks win their first game of this championship set and at least extend it after the weekend to a Game 5 back in Boston on Monday? Our coach, James Young, JY, is here to give you his scouting report for what still remains. At least Game 4 tonight in the NBA Finals and maybe anything beyond. JY, thanks for being here on this Friday morning.
Gentlemen, good morning. Hopefully this is not the last time we're talking NBA Finals. But we need another team to show up, and all of them, and some people stay away from the referees.
Yeah, that necessarily needs to happen for the Dallas Mavericks. This is the only time in the NBA Finals that we will see just one day between games. If it is extended, because we will change venues from 5 to 6, 6 to 7, it would be multiple days off. This is the only time, just one day in between. So yesterday, JY, you weren't here, or were you here with us? I can't even remember. All the days blend together. You were not here with us looking back on game number 3. So let's get some thoughts on what we saw and what it means for game number 4. You mentioned taking some of your frustration away from complaining at the officials. That was Luka Doncic on Wednesday night, fouling out with 4 minutes and 12 seconds remaining in regulation. His frustration overwhelming his greatness and picking up a couple of bad fouls, including trying to take a charge nearly 30 feet away from the basket against Jaylen Brown. That was his 6th and final. How would you categorize Luka Doncic's performance in game number 3 when the Mavericks needed it most?
Disappointing at best when times were needed you the most. And I think when you look at the situation, I want people to understand this from a coach's standpoint. Me, personally. If you think about the play, right, the block charge, I don't want to get into, Ben, whether it was a block or it was a charge. When you are the star player, when you are the face of the franchise and you have 5 fouls, especially with the way you don't play defense and you're getting exposed on that end of the floor, that is one chance, Ben, you cannot take. Now, if he thought that if Brown had 5 fouls and he had 5 and you want to take a chance, I can understand it a little bit. But when you're the star player, when you finally got Kyrie Irving to be playing, at least in the first half, fantastic basketball. You have no Porzingis. You have drives to the basket. You have the ability to finish games. To me, a bang-bang play with 4 minutes left to go in the game is not worthy of you trying to win it there. You're not going to win the game there. You could lose the game there, and that's what happened. And to me, Ben, even bigger than that, I have a bigger problem with the press conference, because what I saw is a player that showed no accountability and no responsibility for his action, how he treated the bench, his decorum. It was a disgrace. And if Luka Doncic is going to be a winner, a true winner in this league, and win championships, he's got to stop worrying about the officials, but more importantly, he has to be committed to the defensive side of the ball at all times. It starts and ends with you on both sides of the floor.
Mavericks need a win, coach, to extend this series. But if we take a look at the Celtics with a win and what that means to them, the 10th sweep in NBA Finals history, and also a 16-2 playoff record, which would be the 5th best of all time. Talk to us here about, if we do see the series end in 4 games, what that means towards the Celtics franchise and this team's legacy.
Well, obviously, getting championship number 18 is going to be all important for them, right? I think that's an important thing that would for any franchise to win. To me, what a sweep does, Donnie, is it shuts everybody up with the, oh, well, they played the first round and there was no Jimmy Butler. Oh, they played the second round, 2 games without Donovan Mitchell. Oh, they played the conference finals. Tyrese Halliburton misses 2.5 games. Well, you just played Dallas Mavericks with their entire team, and you rolled them in 4 games. So it kind of puts together away that narrative, including yours truly, with who have they played leading up to this point. So I think that is the important thing you take from this, is the fact that if they sweep, it's a great, great run for a team that, let's be honest, whether they sweep or win in 5 or win in 6 or win in 7, which I think it's probably over tonight. I'm going back and forth. It is a team that is young, and if their window ain't closed, it is wide open for the next number of years, with Brown and Tatum being so young.
A historic playoff run for what would be a historic NBA championship. 18 of them in Beantown, their first since 2008. Those 18 NBA championships would surpass the LA Lakers for the most in NBA history. And this season was going to be defined by this core led by Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, winning not just the Eastern Conference, but the NBA title and Larry O'Brien trophy as well. It could come to a close tonight. JY, when you have been here looking at the first few games of the NBA Finals, the main thing that you pointed out after the opening game, in the first 2 games in Boston, Kyrie Irving simply had to be better. That was the biggest change that Dallas needed entering game number 3. Boston, as of right now, is a minus 8,000 favorite to win the NBA championship. But if we remember, just about 48 hours ago, Boston entering game 3 just minus 770. Kristaps Porzingis not going to play, likely out for the remainder of the NBA Finals. There was a sliver of hope the Mavericks could do something to make this series even slightly more competitive. Kyrie Irving goes out and pours in 35 points, and yet Boston still wins game 3 by 7, 106-99. So knowing all of that, from a coaching perspective, what does Dallas fall back on tonight in game number 4?
Simply put, Ben, they have to win the 3-point line, or at least lose it close. If you look at every game, if I'm not mistaken, Ben, it's at least 20 points. I think it was 24 points that Boston got more from the 3-point line. In this day and age in the NBA, you have to be able to shoot the 3 and you have to be able to defend the 3. You cannot be a team that's going to put yourself in a 24-point hole at the 3-point line. That is something that teams have to think about, not just Dallas, but moving forward in the future. You have to be able to guard the 3, and that you have to be able to defend the 3. If you're able to do that, that takes away the equalizer of the 3-point shot. The NBA game is so much different than it was in the 80s and even in the early 90s, even early 2000s. The game used to be won on the interior. Ben, you could say now the NBA is won and lost at the 3-point line.
It's really interesting to think, because it is the ultimate equalizer at this point, and we just need to see much, much better shooting from some of those role players there for the Mavericks. Coach, if we're looking at this series and could it be extended, there is some money to be made. If this series ends tonight in 4 games, it's a minus 115 price. If we do get the 5 games back in Boston, it's a plus 170 price, but you're looking at some pretty good numbers in game 6s and 7s with a 12-1 price and a 9-1 price. Is there any chance that we can see not only a game number 5, but even get to a game 6 or a game 7, in your opinion?
If this got to 7, I'd be I'd be floored.
Come on
I'll
now.
be honest with you. I'd be stunned if it gets to 6. If you're going to ask me plus money, I like it to go in 5. I could see Dallas kind of finding a way, grinding their way, and then Boston going home and celebrating in 5 games. That's the way I would look at it, because to me, if you're Dallas, you should be desperate. There is a path to success. It is your 2-star players playing well. It is your 1-star player staying away from the referees. It is being better at the 3-point line. And I don't think Porzingis plays again, so you just keep attacking the basket. There's a pathway to do it. The bigger issue is, Donnie, can they do it?
Yeah. Plus 170, that number right now, both on the series going 5 and Boston winning in 5, because it's only the Celtics who can win this series in 5 at plus 170. Again, this is the 157th all-time NBA playoff series where a team has had a 3-0 series advantage in a best of 7. The previous 156 have all been decided and won by the team that had the 3-0 series lead. So what do we see in Game 4? We'll break it down next. All right, so let's dive deep into game number 4 tonight in Dallas of the 2024 NBA Finals. Our coach, James Young, gave you his assessment that if anything, maybe we see 5, but maybe not more than that. Could it only be 4? Could it be a Celtics sweep going victorious on the road tonight in the Lone Star State? JY, as of yesterday, the Mavericks were still booked as an ever so slight home favorite. Minus 112 on the money line. Again, a very slight home favorite. As of this Friday morning, the line has completely reversed. It was minus 116 in favor of Boston. Updated numbers on the FanDuel Sportsbook, minus 112 in favor of the C's. Let's start with the numbers first and foremost. Boston, a 3-point underdog in Game 3. They win outright. Now, at least as they will be noted, the favorite into Game 4. Do you agree with the odds movement?
Yeah, I agree with the odds movement, because we haven't had a team in Dallas show up and play a complete game yet. You haven't had the 2 superstars do what they're capable of. So it does make sense that Boston is a very slight favorite, because you can also look at the fact that, can you see a team in Dallas, with all due respect, do they just pack it in, knowing that it's so hard to, and no one's come back from a 3-0 deficit in the NBA Finals? So to me, that is something that is, going to be tough for them. But if you're Jason Kidd, all you want to do is just extend it for a couple of more days. So I think that is what is going to be the issue here, is trying to just extend it for one more day.
JY, I think if you can hear me, we're having some technical difficulties with your picture. It looked as though.
Back.
Oh, now maybe he's back.
Yeah.
Listen, JY ain't done. Dallas might be done tonight in the NBA Finals, but James Young is not. So, Donnie, you want to take this next question, since he was kind of responding to mine in the natural flow of things?
Yes.
As we're so good at doing, you would just jump in with the next question?
Exactly. Now, if we're taking a look at the side of the game, we'll see. And maybe it is going to be Boston. As we said, 7 out of every 10 tickets at the FanDuel Sportsbook currently coming in on the Boston Celtics. How about the total, Coach? 211.5. I always like to say, in closeout game situations, boy, that fourth quarter is going to be about defense, and more defense. What are we looking at for that 211 standpoint? Do you see this game going over? Have a tendency possibly to stay under here?
This is the one that I can't get a read on. But to me, it's more about, if you're asking me, I don't want a whole team total. I want the whole game. I want the team total. I'm looking at 105.5. I keep saying I need Dallas to get to about 110, right? I think it was 107.5 in last game. It's now 105.5. They got to find a way to get to 108 to 110. That, to me, is that magic number. So to me, if you ask more than anything, not the whole overall total, I'm going to just say Dallas to go over 105.5 on the FanDuel Sportsbook is the way I would be looking at the game in the total. Just in case it's a blowout one way and maybe Mazzulla kind of sits his guys a little bit, they got to feel good about themselves offensively, Dallas. And if they're going to win, they're not going to win scoring 100 or 102. They got to get to 108, 110 plus.
One of the sneaky storylines of this series, the Mavericks have not reached the century mark yet in the NBA Finals. 89 in Game 1, 98 in Game 2. Nearly there, but finishing with 99 in game number 3. In fact, the Mavericks have now played 12 playoff games throughout this postseason that have featured a total greater than 210. 10 of the 12 have stayed under, including all 3 so far in this NBA championship series. In game number 3, it was the Jays both stepping up. Jason Tatum, Boston's leading scorer with 31. Jaylen Brown pouring in 30. The only other Celtic player to get to double figures was Derek White. He finished with 16, nailing 4 triples. JY, we'll get to the NBA Finals MVP conversation in just a moment. But if you're back in Boston props, where does your eye go first in game number 4 tonight?
Well, I think you have to look at Jason Tatum and see if he can come out to a big start. I think that's one thing you're going to look at is, can your star player, and I've been really big, and I like this last game, is first quarter points. Right now, Jason Tatum is over 7.5 points at plus 108. If you are going to try and slay it and try and finish it early, you want to get the crowd out of the game as quickly as possible. You don't want them to believe. So that means Jason Tatum has to go off. Over 7.5 points at plus 108 in a FanDuel Sportsbook. That's how I look at it. A guy that struggled the first 2 games, really came on in game number 3. Does he carry the momentum into game number 4? Jason Tatum over 7.5 points in the first quarter. I think there's going to be points early on in this game. And I'm really looking at the 3 superstars, 3 of the 4 superstars to try and go off early, especially the fact that not just Tatum, but Kyrie and Luka, all of their first quarter props are plus money.
Now, let's take a look at the Dallas Mavericks, too, because, again, it always starts with the 2 superstars and how many points they can get. In the last game, you got exactly the start you wanted out of Kyrie Irving. So if I'm going to ask you, Coach, between Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, if we look at the point structure here, Luka is 32.5 at FanDuel. You take a look at Kyrie Irving, 25.5. If you had to bet one of those players to go over their totals or under their totals, which one would it be?
If Luka wants to kind of have any kind of narrative change, Luka's got to go absolutely off.
Yeah,
but
agree.
If to start the game, I think it's Kyrie that's going to be going off early. His points prop was at 4.5 in game number 3. He smashed that thing early in game number 3, and they just moved it up to 5.5 at plus 108. Kyrie Irving, who knocked down 4 threes in the last game, should come out firing because I keep looking at the fact that with no Porzingis, if he does not play, there goes the shot blocking presence. So either you have to sit off of him and give him the 3, or you get up on him and he gets the lane with no rim protector. Kyrie Irving plus 108 over 5.5 points in the first quarter.
0 for 8 was Kyrie in the first 2 games from deep of this NBA Finals. Made 4 triples in game number 3. His 3-point prop tonight, 2.5. One thing kind of lost in the conversation of game 3 is actually that Dallas's duo outscored the Jays despite both Tatum and Brown reaching the 30-point benchmark. At least on paper, that is the recipe for success for the Mavericks. And Luka would have also probably gotten to 30 had he played the final 4 minutes of regulation and not fouled out due to frustration. So it's a 3-0 series lead for Boston. We've talked about any hope in Game 4. Maybe the most intriguing debate, who wins NBA Finals MVP next? So I think it bears repeating. This is the 157th time in NBA playoff history in a best-of-7 series, a team has held a 3-0 series advantage. In the prior 156, the team up 3-0 has won all 156 sets. Only 12 times have we seen a team in an 0-3 hole even win back-to-back games to force a Game 6. Only 4 times have we ever seen a series like this go 7. I'm throwing out these facts and figures because the series is over. The Boston Celtics are going to win an NBA championship. If we see something for a historic first, clip this off and share it. I would love for that to be a part of my resume. So, JY, maybe the intriguing conversation is not who wins the Larry O'Brien trophy, but who wins the NBA Finals MVP. And right now it's a battle, it would seem, between Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. We're entering Game 3, both guys in plus money, but Tatum a slightly shorter price than that of Brown, plus 140 for Jason, plus 155 for Jaylen. After Game 3, despite Tatum scoring more points, 31-30, Jaylen Brown's now a minus 340. hefty odds-on favorite to win NBA Finals MVP. So entering game number 4, are the odds correct? Is Jaylen Brown going to stroll into his second consecutive MVP award? First in the ECF, now in the NBA Finals?
It would be amazing because I feel like if they do this, like Jason Tatum has been the anointed one out of the two. He's always been the anointed one, right? And if you think about it in the 22 NBA Finals versus Golden State, who is better? Jaylen Brown. Eastern Conference Finals this year, who's been better? Jaylen Brown. Who's been better in the finals? Probably Jaylen Brown because of the fact that Tatum struggled the first 2 games to score the ball. But I don't think it's as wide as this, Ben. And I think that is what is interesting is can you see a pathway of Tatum coming back and stealing it? Yes. Let's say Tatum goes out and gets you, a double-double or close to a triple-double, which is something he has come close to in this. Then I would say, yeah, there's a pathway here for that. So I'm not going to bet Brown to do it. If I'm going to take a chance, I'm going to take a chance on Jason Tatum, a guy that is averaging, while he's been pedestrian, only 21.7 points per game, is getting 8.7 rebounds, 7.3 assists. So he's doing other things. If he can put together a big scoring game, a 30, 35-point game tonight, Brown struggles a little bit. I could see a pathway, especially if he does the rebounding and the assists as well.
If we are looking at those two players, and again, that's a lot of, for the future of the franchise to say we won the NBA championship is important, but also getting that hardware as the MVP in the finals. If you are looking at those two players, which side would you actually take? Would it be an assist prop? Would it be a rebound prop? Would it be a points prop? Which way would you go on this?
I would go the scoring prop with Tatum. I feel like if he's going to try, if I'm saying that I would have a value of Tatum, winning this MVP at plus 270, then I have to be looking at he's going to have a 30-point game. Right? Because that's the only chance he gets if he goes off and he has a big scoring game tonight. And it's someone, let's be honest, guys, he is more than capable of doing so. If you want to look at another thing to look at, maybe look at the 3-point volume attempts. He's had 7, and 13 shot attempts from the 3-point line. So you could look at the fact that could Tatum be looking at his 3-point prop? It's another way that he can get on. And right now, Jason Tatum's 3-point prop is over 3.5 at plus 138. 7 attempts a game, 13 in one of them. He's going to get the attempts. It's the points, yes, but that over 3.5 at plus 138 is mighty enticing.
He made 4 threes, did Jason Tatum, in game number 3. Again, Boston's leading scorer with 31. Let me just throw in this wrinkle because a couple of guys have been added to the NBA Finals MVP conversation as of this Friday morning on the FanDuel Sportsbook, Kyrie Irving and Derek White. JY, if Boston wins tonight, is there any chance anybody not named Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown wins the NBA Finals MVP award?
I mean, if you can look at the 26-11 that Drew Holiday had, and he goes off and does another monster performance, maybe. But to me, we're not going to run into the Andre Iguodala thing of years past. I think it's one of those two guys that's going to win the MVP. I think, obviously Brown is the leader of the clubhouse, but if I think Tatum, like I said, is going to have a 30-plus point game, then I'm looking at that.
It's why tonight is so important because it could be the last game of the NBA season, and we might only have another one after it, even if the Mavericks stave off elimination. Is this the final fadeaway to the break of the NBA season? Could it be? I mean, there's NBA draft talk to get into the next 2 days.
Coach.
But is this the final fadeaway to the break?
That is
Gotta make it worth it. Gotta make it worth it. Hour 2 next.